Well, howdy ho, friendaroos. I hope you're doing super amazingly fantastic today. And thank you for joining me for another awesome good times paint party where we're gonna paint some beautiful winter wispies together in this, just like really pretty, really simple painting. And you know, it doesn't take much, but man, painting makes me feel so good. And I'm always just so grateful to have the chance to paint with my friends. So thanks for hanging out with me today. We just use super simple supplies from the dollar store to create our beautiful paintings. And that's what we're gonna do. So I have some dollar store paints. I have some turquoise, white, light blue, pink, and dark blue for my painting today. And I'm going to be using two brushes. I have my big fat Fatty McFatterson flathead brush and my nice long liner brush that I'm going to use. So we're just keeping it really simple. This is my original and I have it on this 12 by 16 canvas. And obviously we can do this on any size canvas you want, or watercolor paper, multimedia pad, whatever. You know, I like to keep things cheap and easy, so whatever works for you is perfectly great for me. And yeah, why don't you go grab your supplies and we'll get to painting. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to put all of my colors on my palette. Now we're painting at home, so we can always add more paints to our palette if we need it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of each. And if I need more, I can just add more to my plate. No big deal. I am just going to put a little, oh, whoa. Easy, Julie, easy. I'm going to put a little extra white on my plate because I know I'm going to use a lot of it and I'm going to have to mix it with my pink to lighten that up. So I'm just going to put a little extra white than the other colors. But like I said, we can always add more if you need it. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually start in the middle of our painting with this really pretty pink color in the background. And what we're going to do is take our big brush and we're going to find a flow, moving our brush back and forth. And we're going to just start mixing in colors as we move up to the top of our canvas. Now you can see I have all these really pretty brush strokes that are going from one side to the other, and there's lots of little streaks in the sky, and they go all the way up to the top, and we see all of the colors. So there's going to be times where we see a little bit of white and a little dark blue, but then there's obviously the spots where the two colors mix together. The only thing we want to try and avoid is mixing it so much that it only turns into one brand new color in the background. That's the only thing we want to avoid. We want to see all of the colors that we have here, okay? So to get this party started, it's always my favorite thing to do is start with white because I always feel a little nervous when I first started painting. So putting white on a canvas is a great way to avoid all of that. I'm going to grab a nice big scoop of water. I'm going to grab a big scoop of white paint. And right in the middle of my canvas, I got a really, really big scoop here. I'm just going to go back and forth with my brush a couple times. Back and forth. So I really want you to get into the motion from one side to the other, one side to the other. And we're just going to start to bring it up and over and really find that flow. Just remember, it's all in the hips, back and forth. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of pink and I'm going to start to mix that pink with my white, okay? Now you can buy light pink in a bottle. You don't have to mix them together, but you know, either way, it's all good. Now, once you get that nice kind of light pink mixture there, I'm going to start grabbing some white again. And I'm going to start to move my brush in different directions. So almost like little hills. I'm going to move upward and I'm going to start to grab some light blue. And I really want to start to kind of make these wisps in the sky where there's going to be areas where they go upward, where they go kind of where they crisscross each other. And we're going to use these mixtures of light blue and dark blue. Now the key to blending is literally just stamina. So the more we bring our brush back and forth, the more our colors are going to mix together. So it's really finding the flow between mixing our colors and then letting some of the colors just be themselves without everything turning into a brand new color. All right. So this top part of our painting, we're going to use mostly the light blues, the dark blues, and the white to create just lots of streaks in the sky. So there's going to be some going up, some going down, some are kind of bouncing around a little bit. And to merge them all together, we're going to use these nice big scoops of white to start marbling some of the blues. So see how I'm doing that? I'll take my brush and I'm going to go down over one way and kind of go back and forth a couple times. But then I'll go to the other side of my canvas and then come down in front of those sections so that I have all of these like different style lines that are kind of weaving in and out from each other. The one thing I'm making sure of is that all of my little canvas holes are filled in. I want to make sure that there's no little empty spots been being forgotten. And I really just want to see different variations of color all throughout. So in the end, what's going to happen is your painting's not going to look exactly the same as mine, and mine's not going to look exactly the same as the one that I made before. But I really just want to make sure I have some really distinct areas where there's a little bit of white coming in and there's little bits of dark blue coming in. Whenever my paint starts to overmix, I'll get in there and make sure my brush is nice and cleaned up so that I can get a nice fresh color on my brush and just keep kind of working back and forth with my paintbrush. And it's really just about finding a nice, it's just like a nice flow with your inner being and deciding where you want to see these different colors kind of coming together. All right, I think that's good. I think that's good. Now in the sky, this is a great first go. Once we let it dry for a few minutes, we can absolutely get back in there and add a few extra little white pieces or dark pieces of wind kind of blowing in the sky. For now though, we're going to start to work downwards into our painting. So right along this pink line here, we're going to add some white mountains along the horizon line. Okay, so we don't want to lose all of our pink. So if for some reason you lost the pink on your palette or on your painting, you can grab a little extra white and a little extra pink and just bring it down a little further so that you still can see a little bit of pink in the sky when all is said and done, okay? Making sure there's just a few inches of light pink down here. That should be good. That should be good. Now I'm going to give my brush a rinse so that I have a nice nice coat, or sorry, a nice fresh brush, a nice fresh brush to paint some mountains over top. But I want my pink to be dry first. So I'm going to give this just a minute. If you have a hair dryer, it really helps to dry your painting a little quicker. But if you don't, you just have to wait a couple minutes And we're going to start on the bottom part of our canvas. Beautiful. Okay, so let's paint some white mountains in the background. So I got a nice fresh brush. I'm going to grab some nice fresh white, and I'm going to kind of cut off the bottom of my pink down here. So with my brush, you can start by just kind of making a couple little like bumps with your oh my goodness. Today's hard. I'm having a hard time talking today, guys. So making a few bumps with your big brush, all right? And you can really have fun with the mountainscape. So they can just be regular bumps. You can make it a little more mountainy and add some peaks in there if you want to. Some can be a little higher, so you can have some peaks and valleys in there. But basically, whatever, you know, the peaks are, that's great. Underneath, we're going to kind of set the size of it, and we're going to fill it in. So this is all going to be white here. If for some reason you still see the pink kind of floating through the background, that's okay. Just leave it be for now. Just get a nice coat of white on there. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my brush and I'm going from one side to the other, and it's almost like I'm kind of petting off any big goobers of paint that could be on there, any really embossed or really elevated pieces of paint that are left behind. This just helps me pet it right off. And then I'm just gonna, whatever leftovers are down here, I'm just gonna kind of go back and forth to get the excess off of my brush. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to make a nice dark blue hill right underneath here. So I'm going to grab some dark blue. Now what's going to happen is it's going to pick up some of the paint, but that's okay. We can come back to that later. We're just going to make sure that we are cutting off the bottoms of our mountains here and adding a nice kind of bluey landscape in the back. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It can have a couple lumps in it. If you want to make the lumps a little higher or straighter, that's totally fine. No worries. And from there, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to go back and forth again. And like I said, you're going to pick up some of the white, but that's okay right now. Kind of looks great. So just using that side of my brush to make nice smooth brush strokes. Now, if you're going along and the outside edges of your brush strokes look dry, like it does down here, where, you know, there's not a lot of paint and it's really fuzzy, there's two ways to do it. You can add a drop of water before you grab your paint, or you can just grab extra paint. Because if you don't have enough paint on your brush, you're not going to get a nice smooth, silky line across there, all right? So we're going to start to move our way down. Probably, you know, just a couple inches. And as we move our way down, we're going to start to add some white and turquoise in there. So grab a little white, and we're going to start to make like a hill that goes up and down this way. Okay, and I want you to grab a little turquoise, and we're going to mix that in. And we're going to continue to kind of work our way down. Now I want you to grab a little bit more white just to finish off the bottom of our hill right here. We want a little bit of white at the bottom. And we're just starting to like add these rolling hills into our landscape. So what we can do now, we're going to make another hill that's going to cut down and over. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, of the dark blue. I'm going to start right at the bottom of my dark blue hill, and I'm going to down to the bottom over here. And I want to make sure that it cuts off the bottom of that last hill that I made. All right. Now, as we start to move down this hill, we're going to grab some white. I have a lot of paint on my brush for this, so lots of white, and I'm going to start to mix in a little white and a little turquoise. We're going to make this beautiful hill here. And I want it to get lighter as the hill goes down, so I'm going to wipe some of that excess off my brush, or you can give your brush a rinse. I'm going to grab some fresh white and I'm going to mix it down at the bottom here. And the more I bring my brush back and forth, the more those colors mix together. And last but not least, I think, you know what, I'm going to grab some of this light blue and I'm going to have another hill that goes down like this. But I'm going to cut this bottom part off here, so. There we go, and I'm going to finish that with some white as well. So we're just kind of developing like this nice hilly kind of atmosphere, and we can let this dry for a few minutes. It's gonna take a few minutes to dry because we have a lot of wet paint on our canvas. But I'm gonna give my brush a rinse, and in a minute when we come back, I'm gonna decide if I wanna add anything extra into my sky while the bottom dries up here. So just keep creating your hills using a mixture of the blues and turquoise and white. Finish off the bottoms of your hill in white, and then if it needs to be brightened up a little bit, we can do that in a minute. Awesome. Okay, so while we're waiting for this bottom part to dry, we can absolutely put anything we want left in the sky. And what I mean by that is just grabbing a little water with my brush and deciding, and it's 100% up to you because this is your painting. So sometimes I really, like to go off course a little bit and decide, maybe I want to add little wintry gusts through the air. So I just put my brush straight on the canvas. I kind of pull over and follow some of these lines that I've put in here. To really add some extra airflow in the sky. And you can use any of the colors that you want to do that. Actually, I think I would like to do some more darker blue areas too. So some white and some dark blue just to give it that extra bit of dramatic edge, right? Yes. It doesn't have to be everywhere. And it's definitely going off course from the original. But I just think it's really, I just want you to know that there's options to make this painting your own. And to show you that there's a lot of different ways that things can come together. It doesn't always have to happen exactly like the original. So that's kind of cool. I like it. I like it. Just adding a few extra little windy bits in there. And you could probably do that all day if you wanted to. So I'm going to leave it up to you how many, if any, of those markings you want to add in there. If you want to get real crazy with it, you can, start throwing in some pink wispies and all the good stuff. Now, down on the bottom here, we can do the same thing with some of our hills. So, say with like the dark blue, if I want to follow along any of my hills to kind of give them a little bit more definition, that's an option. I do need some more white here. But also to like brighten up some of the bottom areas of the painting too. So like making sure that it looks really nice and snowy down at the bottom. Anytime you have a layer of paint already, I find it's easy if you grab a little water before you grab the paint that you're covering up. It really helps kind of add that paint on top a little bit smoother than if you're just to kind of use regular paint. So if you thin it out just a little bit, it tends to stick to the surface a little bit nicer. And I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, the more you go back and forth with your brush, the more the colors will come together. So anytime you want to see a little bit more of a gradient, choose one color. White's a great color to mix and blend with, but just choose the color that you're using, get in there, throw it on, and then when the time comes, grab that other color and just mix it in from the top. And the more you go back and forth with your brush, the more those colors are just going to find their way together. Back and forth. It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips. Know what I'm saying? So anywhere you want to add some extra pieces to the puzzle in the sky and the ground, this is the time to do it. There we go. Nice. Maybe just a little bit of blue down here just to kind of give it a little more contrast. There we go. I think I am done with the background, so that's what I want to see you do. I want to see you just move your brush back and forth and let the colors come together the way you want to see them. You know what? You just know in your heart when you're ready. So as soon as you kind of feel that urge, like, yeah, that's good, just stop, because we could just legitimately work on it forever if that's the case. So we got to kind of, give ourselves some boundaries so that we can stop and add our trees on. So get in there, finish up whatever little details you want, and then we're going to add some nice winter whispery trees. Dang, that looks nice, yo. It's good. It's good. I'm really happy about this. So we're going to add some trees on top. I'm going to show you my original really quick here. So I'm going to bring this guy in. Now we have 3 trees and they live on various areas of the hill, right? So we got one on this hill back here. We got one on this hill here and one down here in the little crevice of the hill. And they all go straight up into the sky and they all make it almost all the way to the top of our canvas. Now, there's a couple ways we can do it. If you really like using your flathead brush, you can absolutely just get in there and start to make some little lines going back and forth just using the back corner of your brush. But for how tiny these little branches are, I feel like using our long skinny brush is definitely the ticket for this one. All right, so let's be easy on ourselves. We're going to do our best. Now, whenever we're using a long skinny brush like this, like you can see mine's even kind of wonky. It's already got like a curve on it. But the best way to use it is adding water in with your paint. So I'm going to go ahead and right in this little crevice area of my plate and my paint, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to start to mix that in with my white. Now, I know it's funny because our white or our water has blue in it and it kind of looks blue when we put it in with our white, but once we start to mix it in there, honestly, you can't even really tell. Oh, my camera's getting blown out, but you can't really tell that there was some blue in my water. It's fine. It's gonna be fine, okay? So I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna make sure that it's nice and liquidy. Now, once I get my brush nice and filled up, so it's nice and filled up, I'm just gonna give it a little squeegee on the side of my plate. I don't want it to run everywhere, but I want my brush to be really, really, really full. So I have a nice full brush of paint here. And I'm gonna pick and choose my spots. So I'm gonna start with my middle tree, okay? Go right in the middle and I'm gonna put it on this hill right here. And take a breath and swing. So you can see my my trunk is not perfectly straight. That is fine. I can always go back in, and you know, when I'm putting when I'm trying to do any kind of straight lines or whatever, it's nice to have my hand anchored. So I often put my pinky finger down, or I'll just put my hand straight on the canvas, but I keep it on the canvas while I'm doing it so that my hand stays nice and steady as I'm cruising up. I don't just willy-nilly it and float in the air. I make sure I have that stability, or else my hand's gonna get all wonky and then I'm gonna crazy lines. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. I want it. It's not. I'm not. Ugh, oh my goodness, so hard to talk today. It's not that I care if my trunk has a little wiggle to it. I just don't want it to be like whoa. So I try and keep my composure and my hand anchored the best that I can. Now, as we're creating our branches coming off each side, I'm gonna basically aim for the sky to start branching off here. So I'll pull back up into it, and as I reach that part, I'm gonna pull over and kind of just make one branch on one side and another branch on the other side. And I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to make them almost the same size going all the way up. So you can make them straight. You can give them a little wiggle. But we're just mapping out the basics of where they're going to go. Now, I do like to start to kind of get a little bit skinnier or a little less at the top, so they're a little wider at the bottom. They stay pretty wide, but I'm going to start to taper the size of them as I get to the top. And they're just going to get smaller and smaller. And when we start to add these little branches on there, my brush is really, really nice and full, but I'm only using the tip of my brush. So as I'm starting to create these little sticks that are coming out from my branches, I'm just using the tip of my brush. Now, you're like, why is your brush super full then? If my brush is really full of like nice liquidy paint, I can paint lots of branches without having to go back to my palette, because it's all, as I'm painting, it's all filtering to that tip down at the bottom. So I'm just keeping on going. If my brush is even remotely a little bit up in the air, all that paint's going to kind of start to filter down into the tip of my brush. And this is another stamina part too. So you're going to find you're either going to love making these branches or you're going to totally not. I don't want to say the word hate because it might not be a hate thing, but It does take time, and you got to find a flow. So as soon as you can find the flow of just using the tip of your brush and kind of dragging it along really nicely, you can get these branches done really, really quickly. And just have fun with it. As long as there's like a couple little sticks popping off each one, you're good to go. They don't all have to be exactly the same. As you're moving up, you might want to add a few extras in the mix. But I feel like the more full your tree is, the better. You know, the more we can kind of fill it up with lots of branches. It's like, just shows that it's like a fruitful tree when the spring is here. And right now it's all barren and we can't really, we can see right through it. We can see all those windy bits in the background. All right, so we're just going to keep filling and filling and filling. Now, if you want to get a little saucy, you're more than welcome to add branches underneath here too. They just tend to get lost in the white here. So, you know, if you're going to add a couple branches in with the blue, that's where I would go with it. And just decide at any time if you want to add any extras in between to really fill in that space. Cool. All right, let's make another tree. I love how some days it's just like so easy to talk and whatever, and then other days your brain's just like, nope, not gonna do it, not gonna do it. All right, so for this tree, I'm gonna start in this little crevice down here. But same deal, I'm gonna load my brush up with tons of paint, get it nice and liquidy and filled up. I'm gonna kind of make sure that it's not gonna drip, so I like to squeegee off a little excess on the side of my plate, but it's still really, really full. It's super duper full. And I'm gonna start right in the middle here and swing. If I do like a swing up off the top, then I get a nice little point on the end. I highly suggest the swing motion, and saying swing really, really helps. So I'm just gonna thicken up the base a little and make sure that it's all put together on the way up. Oh man, I just keep making it thicker and thicker. Look at that. But that's okay. I'm just gonna get in there and swing it up again. So that's what happens when you try and fix things. They get bigger and bigger. So I'm just going to try and even that out a little bit. And from there, I'm going to start my branches down in this area a little bit further down, but same deal. I'm going to go off to the right and then just start creating tons of different little branches. And there's going to be points where they might overlap a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going to get a little bit smaller as I move up my tree. And just using the very tippy top of my paintbrush bristle, just lightly, so lightly dragging my brush and creating all these tiny little tree branches. Now, honestly, sometimes I'm trying to push so lightly that I miss, okay? So it's really about trying to find that sweet spot where you're kind of skimming over just the surface of the canvas. And because I have that liquidy kind of wet paint on my brush, it just sticks. If I didn't have that, my branches would look really, really dry, and I would have to reload my brush almost every time I wanted to paint a new stick on there. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to continue to add water in with your paint, grabbing some water, adding it into this little pool that you got going on here. Just continue to add it in so that it just makes your life so much easier. And when you find that flow with your paintbrush where you're just kind of like knocking off all these sticks, it makes, you know, you can find your flow a little nicer. You're not just like running into walls with dry paint and a dry brush. And all right, now one more. I'm gonna land it on this little hill right here. Get my brush nice and filled up. I'm gonna put it down on my canvas and swing. I'm telling you, if you don't have that little bit of water mixed in with your paint, there's no way you would get from the bottom of your canvas all the way to the top. You might put your arm in there, but I put my arm in my paint here. But having that little bit of water on your brush and pulling up to the top is what's going to get you the best results. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I've been doing, just making a bunch of sticks. So once you find your flow, like you can see right now, I'm just going to build up my branches one at a time. You don't have to make them all at once, moving up and then fill them with the little mini branches. You can do it all at once. And that's really just comes with a little bit of experience. If you, you know, if you really want to map out the exact length and how they're going to look first before you start adding all your little branches on, you can absolutely do that. But once you start to get a little bit more free with your brush, it's so much easier to kind of improvise and feel confident that you're gonna make the right choices. Most of the time, it's not all the time, don't always make the right choices. Like that, I just made one big giant branch as I'm trying to make them a little smaller as I reach the top of my canvas. But you know, that's just how we roll, and that's okay. Sweet. Alrighty then. So we got 3 sweet trees. Now, you know, they're kind of just hovering on these hills here. So I just like to take a little extra white and I'm going to just drag a little bit of snowy white around the bottoms of my trees just to make it look like they're actually in a part of the hill. Right? That really makes it look like they're supposed to be there. And last but not least, to make this a super wintry painting, I'm going to rinse my brush, turn it around, take the wooden end of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to start to plop a whole bunch of snowflakes all over the place. You know, one dip of paint can yield like, you know, 3 to 4 drops of snow. And the snow is everywhere, so don't be stingy if you want this to be a super wintry, whispery wonderland. Don't be stingy with your snow. Now, this is a good basis, but you can turn this into any kind of painting you want. If you want to put a little Rudolph in there, if you want to add some ornaments or some little birdies into the trees, that is totally doable, optional way to like just take more time to paint and get more creative. Now, when you're done, I would love to see your results. So please, please, please post your results on the Julie's Paint Party public Facebook group page. That would be so rad because we'd love to see what you came up with. And when you're done, just grab your brush, grab a little bit of paint. You know what? I'm gonna use pink, and I like to put my initials right down at the bottom, so everybody knows that I'm the one who made it. Yay! Yay! Just remember, you can find paintings like this and like so many tutorials. I'm gonna say like over 250 painting tutorials in the Julie's Paint Party virtual hub, and you can learn all about it at juliespaintparty.com/JPPVM. You can see what is available to you, and nonetheless, I just appreciate your presence here. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next week.